Hello everyone, welcome back. This is section 1.2, study using reference materials of Chyan's Coloso class, which is drawing and coloring anime style characters. As always, out of respect for both the platform and the artist slash lecturer, I will, on request, take down all the content relating to this. I deeply respect them and what they do, and I don't want to devalue from what they've made. With that being said, if this helps you in any way, feel free to like and sub and just show support for the channel. Let me know I'm doing good by you guys, and I'll try and make more content like this in the future. So getting into this class was a very fleshed out lecture on analysis of references. Extremely helpful for those who want to learn how to better deconstruct their references and understand what makes them good references and how to implement what they see and what they like into their own illustrations. So the main topic for today was analyzing materials and adjusting drawings. So a large part of the points that he goes over is to use references to draw something beyond your skills or for study purposes. And he digs a lot more into the studying aspect rather than using them for developing things beyond your skills while you're drawing, but nonetheless, it's still a very functional value. So he says to use enough references to start, so generally aim for 2 to 3 per illustration that you're working or whatever study that you're using as well. He also lists using references in order to build an analyzing skill, which is essentially tracking or note-taking your own thinking. And we'll dig a little bit more into what this really looks like, but it's really just a formal analysis of what you see and writing that down so you better understand what you're working with as a reference. And he says to analyze reference aspects and break down what makes it strong for an indirect experience similar to reading a book. And Chyan compares this idea of using references to a book in the sense of like, you read a very compelling narrative and you feel sucked into the experience that is the whole story and the plot of the book. In the same way, when you're studying a reference, you can really understand the mind behind creating this work, and the aspects that you like, you can hopefully use that same mindset to implement into your own works. And as a quick note, he goes over the 3 wonders of Photoshop and adversely Clip Studio Paint because it has very similar functions. And these help break down the analysis of references. And those 3 wonders are going to include the hue saturation tool, the color balance and color range tool, as well as curves and levels. And he demonstrates this in his class, which I can't really replicate in the document or on video. But it's pretty much just playing around with the drawing and brightening, darkening, contrasting, increasing all the curves of every value that you can realistically play with without tampering the illustration itself in order to better see what's really going on in the illustration. And so how to analyze and how to use these tools really. Here's a huge list of pretty much what he went over, breaking down his own illustration and essentially replicating the aspects of it into another illustration as a character that he had created. So just a quick list: aim for more sentences or depth of description for better understanding. So understand impressions. How does it make you feel? Break down the composition. What is the flow? What's being emphasized, and what shapes can you break down seeing in the composition? Make sure to take note of bright and dark parts or gradation, as well as distinction of hues. What colors stand out and where are they placed on the composition? Keep in mind concentration of density / details. Those will also be inadvertently an emphasis on the illustration as well. Textures, effects, background, light, and context to the illustration itself, not necessarily what's light and dark, as well as perspective, highlights, volume, and character, which is realistically anatomy, but how are they built? And a lot of these, what's more prominent and what's less in your face, maybe less detailed, a better way to put it, will help paint really realistically what's going on as you're viewing the illustration and what makes it a good or maybe less so illustration. So make sure that when you're looking at references to break down the illustrations using various tools to understand it, this is where you can really implement retouching or even editing and drawing and changing aspects using the 3 wonders. So obviously, like I mentioned, you can use curves and levels, color balance, hue saturation, playing a lot with those values that you physically see, but you can also edit the drawing yourself and see what aspects change. And Chyan mentioned this in his example, but the character that he has on the example resource has ears, has animal ears, cat ears, bunny ears, whatever. And if you remove those ears, it kind of removes a lot of the flowing element that is from the background character behind the character to the character with the ears. So how do different elements that you can sort of erase, play with, change, how do those change the flow of the illustration and what necessarily they're aiming for and what makes it a good reference? By understanding that, you can implement more of those aspects to your own illustrations. So in summary, by analyzing and understanding references, we can create indirect experiences for our own drawings. Make sure to play with references to better understand them using the 3 wonders that he lists, and analyzing drawing principles with notes. Note taking is big. Make sure to record your thinking and you can compare it to future notes and see the difference in progress. And make sure to repeat what you learned into new studies and illustrations and really make use out of your own studies and references. So the self-assigned homework that I thought was appropriate is to break down and analyze a good reference of your own with 10 aspects detailed with around a sentence each in order to better understand these aspects and how they're flowing within the illustration that you picked, and to use tools and touch-ups to better understand the parts analyzed. Here's a good list. You can use this list if it might help you out, but really break down, try and understand what makes it a good reference to you and take a lot of those aspects, even if you have to write them down and note take them for your future illustrations, and hopefully that'll help. And you can copy this process for your future reference and studies, and hopefully that'll help as well. So this was really detailed, kind of nitty-gritty on the process. But ultimately this was study using reference materials, or section 1.2. Like said in my other lecture reviews, this is really getting into the nitty-gritty from this point on, as we're moving into another section from this one. So hopefully this will help you guys who are still interested in the course and moving forwards with it, or the reviews and are still deciding. We'll really get into some really interesting content in the future, so I hope you guys stick around, and we'll hopefully see you in the next one, in the next lecture review. Hope you guys have a good one. Take it easy.